Good afternoon to those of you in the East and good morning to those of you in the West. Thank you for joining us for today's session brought to you by the Regional Educational Laboratory, or REL Mid-Atlantic. My name is Sterling Grimes. I served as a coaching lead for this project on behalf of the REL, and I will be co-moderating today's session alongside my partner and fellow coaching lead, Yvonne Allen. Our topic for today is Increasing Educator Diversity, Lessons Learned from New Jersey's Data-Driven Approach. We'll be discussing the REL's multi-year partnership with the New Jersey Department of Education. And in the second half, you'll hear about some of the key lessons that we've learned thus far from our featured panel, which includes our fearless team leader from the REL, Dr. Jackie Peng, as well as our incredible partners from the New Jersey Department of Education, Melissa Patacchio and Eli Trinato. As we start our session, just a quick housekeeping note. This session is being recorded and will be available on the REL website for playback in about a week. So please feel free to check back for the recording. As we start our session, we'd like to get to know where you're coming from today. So if you are able to do so, please let us know in the chat which state that you are joining us from. And we also invite you to share any specific strategies or insights that you hope to learn from today's webinar. Our team will be fielding your questions and we'll be doing our best to answer as many as we can in the chat. And we do have some space reserved at the end of our session to field some out loud with time remaining. I see a couple folks joining us from the East Coast. Hello, Delaware and Massachusetts. Getting a little further west, I see Chicago joining us. Hello, Illinois, Minnesota, and Colorado. The Rockies are up today. Good morning, good morning. See, we've got New Mexico coming in. Joining us down south in Texas. Hello, Maryland, my home state. Good to see you as well. New York, beautiful. We are so grateful to have a wonderful session with you all today. And so again, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat as well. If there are specific strategies or information that you are looking for from our team is standing by to field those questions and do our best to answer as many as we can. Let's take a look at our roadmap for today that'll guide our session. First, we'll be looking at the current research and data and discuss why educator diversity matters specifically for New Jersey. Next, you'll hear more about the REL's partnership with the New Jersey Department of Education and our work to increase capacity within districts that are tackling the issue of educator diversity in their locales. We'll then feature our panel of project leaders who are highlighting key lessons learned from our work over the past few years that will hopefully inform work in your own locale. And at the end, again, we have a few minutes reserved to field questions from the audience, and we'll close out with a few resources that can help support your planning back home. Again, the chat will be open for your questions a little bit longer, so please feel free to let us know if there are specific strategies or information that you're looking for, and we'll do our best to address those. But for now, I will pass the mic over to Eli Trinato from the New Jersey Department of Education to tell you a bit more about New Jersey's approach to increasing educator diversity.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Eli Trinato. I am with New Jersey Department of Education, and along with my colleague, Melissa Patacchio, we are the recruitment unit for the New Jersey Department of Education. New Jersey's approach to increasing educator diversity. In the next couple of slides, we're going to discuss the importance of a diverse teaching workforce and New Jersey's commitment to this goal. We're also going to share some background for participants about New Jersey's work to date aimed at increasing educator diversity. And we're also going to try to provide a high-level summary of the phase approaches and its alignments within state objectives. Some of the things we're going to try to answer are why does increasing educator diversity matters? New Jersey Department of Education's commitment to include data, theory of action, and some initiatives. And we're also going to discuss how did the New Jersey Department of Education go from developing this project. So a growing body of research underscores the importance of increasing educator diversity for all school children. Exposure to a diverse school faculty and student body can improve cognitive development, including critical thinking and problem solving, and increase social emotional development, engagement, test scores, and attendance in students of all races. So as you can see, all students benefit from the talents of teachers from a variety of different backgrounds, races, and ethnic groups. And students of color benefit from having teachers from their own racial and ethnic groups as well. Studies indicate that Black students who are taught by at least one Black teacher during grades K through 12 had higher test scores and graduation and college enrollment rates. And students of color taught by a teacher of the same race or ethnicity had fewer suspensions and or disciplinary outcomes. Teachers of the same race may also provide more culturally responsive instruction, which can improve students' reading skills, academic achievements, and lower their numbers of disciplinary incidents that we know disproportionately affect Black students. As you can see, here is a little bit of data that we provide. Although the diversity of New Jersey's educators is on a slight rise, it has not kept pace with the racial and ethnicity diversity of the student population. As you can see, back in 17 and 18, we had about 56% of students of color, which in 2021 and 22, that increased to about 60.4%. The educators of color in 2017, 2018 went from 16.1 to 17.4. So there is an increase. But as you can see from the bubbles up top, more than 121,000 of students see 0 educators of their same race ethnicity in school. More than 163,000 students see 0 educators of color in their school, and almost 1 in 5 schools employed 0 educators of color in 2016 and 2017. So the New Jersey Department of Education has an online data portal called the New Jersey School Performance Report, where students' enrollment counts by race, ethnicity, and educator demographics are publicly available and confirm continuing disparities between students of color and educators of color in public schools. So our theory of action. Here at the New Jersey Department of Education, we believe that if we partner with educator preparation programs, county colleges, local education agencies, professional associations, policymakers, and community-rooted organizations with intentionality to, number 1, implement promising recruiting preparations and retention strategies, and also integrate culturally responsive practices and pedagogy. If we partner with our stakeholders and do these 2 things, we believe that then all students, regardless of race, will have access to an ethno-racially diverse educator workforce that more closely reflects the diversity of the state's student population and is also culturally responsive. So seeing our theory of action of work, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the programs we're doing. In order to meet these goals, the state has implemented several initiatives. These all fall under our big umbrella called diversifying the educator workforce. The first thing are a couple of grants that are state appropriated, the Minority Teacher Development Grant and the Minority Teacher Quality and Retention Grant. These grants are state appropriated for a total of $750,000. Historically, they've been awarded to education preparation providers. The Minority Teacher Development Grant has $500,000, 2 recipients, $250,000 each, and the grant supports eligible organizations or institutions to develop programs and strategies to increase the number of minority teachers in New Jersey classrooms. The Minority Teacher Quality and Retention Grant is $250,000 awarded to 1 recipient, and the purpose is to develop instructional coaching models to increase retention of minority teachers. In addition, we just recently attended our New Jersey annual convening on diversifying the teacher workforce. Co-sponsored with New Jersey Association of Colleges for Teacher Education, the New Jersey of Education partners with teacher preparation providers to engage stakeholders in annual convenings designed to raise awareness of the lack of teacher diversity and offer solutions for addressing this issue. We also have the New Jersey Diverse Learner Ready Teachers Initiative, also known as DLERT. Our office started working with DCSO in 2018. The DLERT committee worked to revise, enact, and remove state policies that address specific challenges for both diversifying the educator workforce and culturally responsive practices. DLERT was paused during the pandemic and relaunched in September of 2022. The DLERT committee holds monthly meetings during the academic school year that includes representation from the New Jersey Department of Education, institutions of higher education, organizational schools, and district level administration. And a word of note, there are no appropriations for this initiative. This initiative is done all voluntarily. The next thing that we do is we partner with Region 4. The Mid-Atlantic Comprehensive Center, Region 4, is an organization that has been working with the New Jersey Department of Education in a different capacity. Region 4 has been working with our office to evaluate data pertaining to diversifying the teacher workforce. Something new that we're excited and started this year is the New Jersey Teacher Apprenticeship Program. This is the grant. It is $800,000 total. The recipients are awarded $400,000 each. And the purpose of the grant is to establish a new U.S. Department of Labor approved registered teacher apprenticeship program while offsetting the costs associated with tuition assistance and or on-the-job training. And the last thing program that we're talking about is the VA Teach Pilot Program, which is also new. The purpose of this program is for an educational prep provider to fast-track certification for military veterans separated on or after September 11, 2001. There are currently no appropriations for this initiative as well. And one of our biggest projects that we do is we're partnering with the REL Mid-Atlantic, which is why we're all here today. So the purpose of this project is to increase the capacity of district staff in hiring practices to recruit and retain more teachers of color. Some of the things that we'll talk about is the overview of the coaching project, the purpose, and describe the phases of the work. This will include objectives for the project and also key focus areas such as learning related to data-informed continuous improvement, addressing bias, race, root cause analysis, strategic planning, setting goals, and the theory of action. So for now, we'll hear from Yvonne, who will explain a bit more about our partnership with the REL and how we work to build district capacity for stronger hiring practices.
Thank you so much, Eli. I'm Yvonne Allen, coaching lead with the REL. And to give you a little background on the REL Mid-Atlantic, thank you so much. The Regional Educational Laboratory, or the REL Mid-Atlantic, or the REL, is one of 10 regional educational laboratories that's funded by the Institute of Education Sciences. And here at the REL, we facilitate collaborative partnerships in 5 states: Delaware, DC, Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And we aim to improve education outcomes through applied research, technical support, and dissemination. The REL boosts education leaders' capacity to use research effectively to address key issues, collaborating with educators and policymakers to enhance outcomes for educators and students. So everyone has a REL. It's not just the REL Mid-Atlantic. Everyone has a REL. And so you'll find a link in the chat where you're able to explore the REL's website and available resources. So in New Jersey, we've been instrumental in facilitating an initiative that increases the diversity of the educator workforce. This initiative builds on prior work of the REL and NJDOE with a focus on assisting districts in understanding reports that highlighted the teacher and student characteristics in each district. We embarked on this journey using a phased approach, trying to enhance the capacity of LEAs to cultivate a more diverse teaching workforce. And this effort was supported by the strategic guidance of the state agency, champions like Eli and Melissa. And through phase 1, you'll see we co-developed a hiring and selection coaching series with NJDOE, delivering that series to 10 local school districts to help them effectively utilize data and implement research-based hiring practices. Excuse me. And then in phase 2, the coaching series, we laid the groundwork for a Train the Trainer series to equip state leaders to then train districts in the 2024-25 school year. And in phase 3, we're currently evaluating the initiative's progress and the effectiveness through an implementation study, which aims to understand how districts implement what they've learned and assess the outcomes of the changes made. And the insights that we gain will be invaluable for the SEA leaders as they identify successes and areas for growth in the LEA hiring practices. Please note that this partnership between the REL and NJDOE, it underscores the important relationship between SEAs and LEAs, and SEA leaders like Melissa and Eli are crucial in driving this systemic change and providing LEAs with essential tools and strategies. So let's talk about phase 1. In phase 1, the district coaching series, this initial phase provided district coaching sessions that were tailored to strengthen LEAs' ability to use data-informed hiring practices that effectively attract and retain educators of color. And the purpose of this coaching project was threefold. First, it was designed to expand the knowledge, habits of mind, and skills of leaders to strengthen their capacity to increase educator diversity with the focus on hiring and selection. This means first, building leaders' awareness of the effects of implicit and explicit bias on the hiring and selection processes. The second goal of the project was to assist districts in implementing recruitment and retention strategies. And third, to increase the ethno-racial diversity of the educator workforce to reflect the diversity of the state's student population more closely. And through this framework, in partnership with NJDOE, the REL continues establishing a foundation for sustainable, data-informed hiring practices. These efforts are set to enhance the educational environments significantly and offer benefits for educators and students throughout New Jersey. And let's talk about next the participating districts. As you see on the slide, there were 10 districts that participated in the coaching series. The participating districts came from multiple regions around the state and represented urban and suburban schools with different levels of staff and student diversity. For example, based on NJDOE data, Maple Shade School District, that's in Burlington County, it has 224 professional staff, nearly 97% of whom are white, compared to a nearly 46% population of students of color. Then Penns Grove Kearney Point, which is in Salem County, has a professional staff of 82.9% white and 74.4% population of students of color. Most districts who attended the coaching series, they came with a team that included a combination of school-based staff and district leaders, including those responsible for direct oversight of the hiring and selection process. Because of the highly collaborative nature of the coaching series, we found that districts that attended each session with the team, they seemed to get more out of them, out of the sessions, and they were able to operationalize the learning more effectively. To provide an overview of the coaching series, the coaching series was delivered in 6 sessions. In our initial session, starting where we are, we set the context for NJDOE's focus on hiring and selection. By examining the data that Eli shared with us earlier, we identified key terms and concepts around the language of this work, like racial equity, culturally responsive pedagogy, and implicit bias, because we know that developing a shared meaning and frankly, a level of comfort around these terms that have become culturally and politically loaded is an important first step in addressing the barriers to increasing educator diversity that exist across the workforce pipeline. And then in session 2, we took a closer look. We discussed the value of continuous improvement cycles, and we led districts through analyzing their workforce data to identify parts of the hiring funnel that create barriers or chokes in the hiring of teachers of color. In session 3, we got to the core. We used a self-assessment tool to conduct a root cause analysis and identify areas of focus for the Increasing Educator Diversity Action Plan. Then in session 4, we went through goal setting and theory of action, where we examined the relationship between a vision statement and a theory of action. And districts began to develop their own vision statements and the theories of action grounded in the data from their root cause analysis. And then finally, in sessions 5 and 6, our participating districts were able to finalize their vision statements and theories of action and develop their own increasing educator diversity plans. In phase 2, the Train the Trainer series, this series built upon the initial coaching series. It widened the scope to include state and regional trainers and expanded the initiative's reach and impact. The content for phase 2 was an adaptation. We adapted the coaching content for state, regional, and district education agencies. The 6 initial coaching sessions were modified to be similar to phase 1, but tailored for delivery in a training platform. We adjusted the coaching series to improve delivery and effectiveness, reflecting our commitment to continuous improvement. Then we expanded its reach by delivering it to additional organizations during the 2023-24 school year, preparing them to facilitate it in the next year. The trainer model, introduced unique features such as our providing for metacognitive moments, which allow participants to be able to reflect on activities from a trainer's perspective, which enhance their learning experience. And while we didn't fully meet our desired outcomes that are noted on the slides, we gained a lot of valuable insights from the process. And throughout our time together, we'll continue to further discuss these in detail. But now I'll turn it over to my training partner, Sterling, to delve into the lessons that we've learned from the project.
Beautiful. Thank you, Yvonne. I am excited to now welcome our panelists to the virtual stage where they'll be able to detail a bit more about our partnership and discuss some of the successes, some of the challenges, and some important considerations for leaders who are taking on this work, particularly at the state level. And so once again, I am pleased to introduce to you Eli Trinato and Melissa Patacchio from the New Jersey Department of Education and Dr. Jackie Pang from the REL Mid-Atlantic. And as a reminder, as you hear from our panel, you can also use the all panelists function in the chat to ask questions to our panelists that are coming up for you. Our team is standing by to field those. We'll be doing our best to respond back to you in the chat. But if there's also space at the end, we will absolutely lift up questions that are pertinent for the entire group to be able to voice over. And so our panelists have now joined us on the stage. Welcome, rock stars. Thank you for your insights today. We are excited to hear from you and learn from our experience over the last few years. We'll start at the high level with the New Jersey Department of Education. I'll start with you first, Eli. We know some leaders might be uncertain about tackling an issue like increasing educator diversity at the state level. It can be a really big and complex problem to think about sometimes. But what are some big misconceptions about doing this work as an SEA that we should kind of clear up?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sterling. I think one big misconception is that there is a lack of interest in prioritizing this work. We understand that barriers are real, but those issues are often about capacity and infrastructure, which can be planned out in time. For example, during our coaching series, we had one of our participants make a comment that said, candidates of color are not interested in applying and living in this area of New Jersey. And that started a dialogue and conversation. And then some of the questions that were asked by other participants were, what are your recruitment look like? What are your marketing materials look like? What are you doing to attract candidates of color? Another example we got from the coaching series was, how do we get our administrative leaders on board with this? There was a comment made that someone said, I don't think our admins, our senior leadership, administrative leadership wants to partake in this work. So there was some dialogue and discussion about that, of how do we get leadership on board. And during our training series, Sterling, we had somebody say, well, what if a school is not wanting to diversify? How do we approach that to start? So there was also some dialogue there. So there is some interest in this work. We do know the barriers are there, but we feel that this is important work, and we feel that those issues and those barriers can be talked upon with those in charge. Challenges like these, they should not hinder you because they can be mitigated with strategic planning, implementation, and continuous improvement. There are people at all levels who are interested in educator diversity efforts and who are also critical to this success. Engaging other leaders on the topic can help build momentum, Sterling, and capacity to support efforts on any level, even the LEA level.
Thank you so much. Eli, I have a question for you about implementation. How did the team approach training and coaching as an immediate response to the district's needs?
Yeah, absolutely. So our journey into this work started with just engaging leadership for their support. We needed support from our leadership and who also believed in this work. And once they gave us that support and we worked with your team, it was now to find districts, solicit districts. So we contacted each executive county superintendent. There's 21 counties in the state of New Jersey, so we contacted each one of them, and we asked them, which school districts in your county do you feel would benefit from this work? So each executive county superintendent sent us 2 recommendations. We then reached out to those districts and said, hey, you were recommended for this work. If you're interested, please apply. We created an internal equitable process. We created an application process, and we also created a rubric and had districts apply. Once they applied and we scored the rubrics, we made sure that we selected districts that were located throughout the state of New Jersey, North Jersey, South Jersey, and Central Jersey. We wanted representation from the entire state as part of this project. So that was a little bit of work of what we did in order to kind of get started. For the training series, we once again engaged senior leadership as well for their support. And then we once again solicited executive county superintendents that, hey, who do you think would benefit from being able to provide this training to districts at your level? So the county superintendents send us some names. And we also reached out to the New Jersey Department of Education's director of the Office of Comprehensive Support, and he was able to provide us with some recommendations. Once we received the names, we invited the recommended participants to be part of the trainer series. We sent out an email explaining what the trainer series was, and they were all on board. So we were able to kind of get started that way. Something that was very important for us, Yvonne, is that we engaged participants throughout both series. I think that was very important, keeping participants engaged, being able to communicate them, whether it's a weekly check-in email or a monthly check-in email, just something that let them know that, hey, we're still here, and if you have any questions, please follow up with us and ask us. We also provided resources in advance. I think that was very helpful as well. Prior to the start of each session, we were able to send out an email maybe a week or two in advance saying, hey, here are the resources that you're going to need for our session. Please look them over. Please come prepared. And something that we found very helpful were the community agreements that we created during each session. I think being able to create that space where individuals can be able to speak and talk about how are they able to better be a participant, or how are they able to communicate with one another and kind of create that safe space for them, I thought was also very helpful.
Thank you so much, Eli. Jackie, I'm going to follow up with you. Can you highlight a few long-term strategic considerations and their implications for the efforts that are happening right now?
Yeah, sure thing. First, I just want to shout out Eli and Melissa, who've been really awesome partners in this work. And I always tell people that, they're not new to the work, they're true to the work. So this is something that they've really been working on for quite some time. And so we've loved being able to partner with them on it. And I think that one of the actually misconceptions that exists, which I think can become a challenge for many folks who are trying to lead this work at the state level, is that SEA leaders can't make LEAs, local education agencies or individual school districts do this work, right? So as wonderful as Eli and Melissa are, they can't force folks to engage in this work or to do these things or to take on these initiatives. Rather, they're partners in the work. And so for us as the REL, it was about how could we add value in a way that facilitated and capitalized on the existing partnership that Eli and Melissa, as the representatives from NJDOE, the partnership that they had with districts who signed on to participate in the coaching series. So it really is more about forming relationships and forming partnerships, and that takes work, right? So that's a long-term strategic consideration, that those relationships are things that don't just happen overnight. In terms of a challenge, I would say that some of the feedback that we received from the initial coaching participants in the coaching series that you took us through was that there were not enough applicants of color in the educator pipeline, and therefore there weren't enough candidates for them to actually select from. And so our response was contained and was really focused on the hiring and selection process, as that was their locus of control, right? That's something that at the district level, they were able to have an impact around. And so because of this, we were there to provide them with pre-developed materials related to hiring and selection. But during the coaching series, it became clear to us that there were other needs that needed to be met. And so we then had to continue to be in conversation with our partners at NJDOE about what were some ways that they may be able to meet those needs and respond to those needs in ways that we weren't necessarily going to be able to do with that current coaching series.
Thank you, Dr. Jackie. I'm hearing deep partnership. I'm hearing a lot of feedback and constantly checking in to ensure that we're on the same page because, as you mentioned, this is a partnership effort. And so ensuring that folks are invested and aligned is going to be critical to moving success forward wherever there are spaces where the SEA can engage. Thank you for that thought. I want to start talking now then about how we got to some success because there were a number of successes in this project that we're really proud about. So I want to come back to Eli for a second and ask you to just lift up for us some aspects of the project that we worked on that we felt were really critical to us seeing success with districts.
Absolutely, Sterling. Some things that we found that were critical to our success was being able to engage our senior leadership here at the New Jersey Department of Education, being able to talk and advocate for this work and have it supported. It was great because the momentum was there. We were able to engage our leadership. They were able to engage other offices within the area in the department to help us with this work, and we felt that was very successful. So that's something that we felt was really great, just having that support. Another thing that we felt was critical to the success was ensuring that all participants understood what the project was about, and in this case, it was about understanding and analyzing district hiring data. We feel that being able to understand that concept was very critical to the success. Depending on where you live, there might be a hiring committee, there might be the principal of the school, maybe the superintendent of the district, or maybe the executive county superintendent is the one that's doing the hiring. But just being able to understand as you're hiring, are you looking at your data? Are you analyzing it? Are you seeing if there are anything happening as to why applicants of color are not making it into the final stages? So understanding that concept, certainly we felt was very critical to the success. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but also keeping participants engaged. The more you keep them engaged, the more you're wanting them to come back. We wanted to make sure that all participants attended all 6 sessions of the training series and the coaching series. We wanted to make sure that they were wanting to come back and be able to learn more. So that was something that was very important, is just keeping that engagement, keeping that motivation there to wanting to continue this program. And then finally, I think having participants share what they learned with their respective leadership was also important. After the 6 sessions, those individuals were able to talk to their senior leadership at their district and just kind of explain what the project was about, what they learned, and how they can implement that into their hiring process. We feel was very critical, and having them understand that and sharing it was also very critical.
Thank you for sharing those successes with us, Eli. I appreciate that. Before I pose my next question to Melissa, I'm going to ask all participants, if you have any questions that you would like to ask our panelists, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And Melissa, as a champion of this work and an SEA leader, we embrace challenges, we learn from them. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you experienced with implementation?
Sure, yes, thanks, Yvonne. We did experience several challenges, and I think the way we approach these challenges is, in retrospect, we embraced them and looked for ways to move forward. And I think we are in a good place right now today, but there were certainly some bumps along the way. Some of those bumps were scheduling of time and also attendance. For our phase 1 coaching series participants, it was an interesting group because these folks were from school districts. So as we know, most individuals who are working in LEAs are available after the school day. So we chose a time block that would try to meet their needs as best as possible. However, it couldn't meet everybody's need. So we would have some participants who would have to call from the car on their commute home. And while they were there and they were listening, they weren't able to view the screen or view the content as well as they would like to. Also, going into the long meeting block, we would have some people that would have to drop off the line because we're entering into the 5 o'clock hour or so, and it's been a long day for these folks. they have other commitments like childcare or dinner or another job or what have you. And so we had some people that would have to leave the meeting early. Also for our phase 2 trainer series, the scheduling was a little bit easier because those folks were SEA departmental employees. However, they have a lot of competing priorities and a lot of other commitments with their regular work streams that they do at the department. So it was difficult to have all of the folks attend as many sessions as we would have liked. So scheduling and attendance could be seen as, you know, just a small bump in the road. Just really you need to think about what meets the needs of the audience the best, and just try to help as many as you can. Also with the series, specifically the training series, we wanted our individuals to at least complete, if you will, 50% of the sessions in order to designate them as a completer, because we felt that, you know, there's a certain amount of percentage of work that you need to do in order to be able to effectively deliver this training to other districts in the future. So we wanted to really focus and encourage individuals to make sure that they complete 50% of the sessions, which I'll go back to in 1 second. But another challenge that we had is something that Dr. Jackie just spoke about, is the accountability, the enforcement of what is beyond our control with getting individuals to attend these sessions and complete the training. We can only do so much. We can strongly encourage, we can nudge, but we can't require at the end of the day. So this was very challenging for us because we had started off with a certain number of individuals, specifically in our phase 2 Train the Trainer series, and we started off with 21 individuals. We ended up with 13 completers, but here we are today with 4 individuals that have committed to train. The year of their training, phase 2, was a long year, and the expectations were provided up front. However, competing priorities, capacity, other bumps along the way can derail what we really wanted them to commit to in year 3. So it is something that we've learned definitely during the last few months, is we have to be cognizant and aware of all of the competing priorities that other professionals have. Even though they may believe in this work, there's only so much time and only so much that they can do. So we struggled with getting our trainers to really commit to all the trainings that we had originally expected from them. So we had to pivot a lot, and we had to seek direct leadership support, and Eli and I had countless conversations with our senior leadership to encourage our trainers to recommit, if you will, and to encourage their immediate supervisors to recommit to this work and how important this work is. And it took a lot of effort and a lot of discussions, and unfortunately, we've been able to have 4 of our trainers recommit and deliver about 5 trainings over this next year. The number is a lot less than what we originally wanted, but we are grateful that we were able to get a recommitment in the sense when there's so many other things that are going on with our folks. That was by far our biggest challenge. Just another small challenge that we had is there's a lot of surveys that go out to assess the progress of this training and to assess where we want to go forward. And some of our participants have experienced survey fatigue. So, just tried to space them out ample as possible, but still, it's about 9 surveys or so during the year that they had to complete, which doesn't seem a lot, but when you have, other competing priorities and the work of this project, in addition to making sure that you have to complete the surveys, can be a burden for some.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you for your commitment to the continuous improvement process and identifying those challenges. On the same vein, what gaps, if any, are there that still exist or existed after you completed the first and second phases of the project? Any gaps that you may identify?
Yeah, so I think the biggest gap for us is the lack of accountability. We still cannot enforce any type of participation with this project. This is something that is going to be a gap, a challenge for whatever type of project we embark on here at the state. So that will always be a gap for us. Our team has really learned and worked with a lot of folks in senior leadership to come together and strive towards this work and do what we need to do to make this work move forward. However, that gap will still always be there, that we can't enforce our trainers to deliver trainings this year and even next year, which leads into sustainability, will always be a gap for us too. We will encourage, and we highly support and highly believe this work should be sustainable, and we would want our trainers to continue to deliver trainings, whether it's phase 1 participants or phase 2. But given everything that I had just discussed, that is a reality that may not happen. So the gap around sustainability is very real for us too.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Sorry.
No worries. I just want to say thank you for the transparency there. One of the big challenges, I think, with a lot of the webinars that perhaps folks in our audience have gone to is that we're always ready to share all of our great data and these cool numbers and all of the things that are totally working well, but we don't spend a lot of time naming the things that we're still trying to sort out. And I think for leaders who are trying to grapple with this work, understanding where those tensions lie, what challenges that we are trying to address in real time can be a really helpful tool for those who are trying to build new plans. We are nearing the end of our time, and we have a little bit of space left to answer questions from the audience, so please continue to bring those in. Our team is fielding and prepping responses for you. But before we do, I would just love to close out this portion of our panel with New Jersey Department of Education, our partners in this work. And I'll go right back to Melissa quickly, if we could. As you think about the work that we've done, is there anything else that you would highlight as a big consideration for state education agency leaders who are considering taking on this work?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, we would encourage all state leaders to take a survey as to what is happening in your state. Do some research, see what conversations are going on around educator diversity, research, projects like this that we've just described, because you never know, there could be something going on and maybe you just don't know of it yet. Something that we had in our state recently, last week, every year for the last 7 years, we have a convening called Diversifying the Teacher Workforce Convening. Eli spoke about this a little bit on a few slides ago, but this event is a conversation among educational stakeholders, and it's aimed at looking at current issues in our state. How can we cultivate sustainability in our workforce, reflect cultural and linguistic diversity, and let's all come together one time a year from all the different walks where we come from and discuss these issues together. This is a small event. It's not a large conference. Usually we have maybe anywhere from 70 to 100 people a year. So it is essentially a conversation among folks who have the real intention on moving the needle behind these areas. This year's theme specifically was retention is the new recruitment. And there were several discussions with getting folks to share some strategies, to share their issues with retaining teachers just in general, and then also teachers of color. But then there were also discussions with encouraging districts and other personnel to really get to know the modern day teacher and what does the modern day teacher look like, because the modern day teacher is different, requires different recruitment and retention strategies. And this is where we are today with the folks coming into the teaching profession.
It is a new day. We have a new crop of talent that are coming in. I think reports are talking about the next retirement wave over the next 3 years. So we're really talking about a major shift in the teacher workforce, sort of at like broad scale. So I think you are speaking to what leadership in this moment really requires us to do, which is to reassess how we've been operating and be willing to address our practices and adjust where needed. So thank you for thinking through that. I know our team had a great time hanging out with the New Jersey Department of Ed folks at the conference last week, and got a great sushi recommendation from Eli. So we appreciate the opportunity to be in beautiful partnership with you as we continue this work. And speaking of Eli, as we close out this portion of our panel, I'll go to you for our last thought for this section. If we were to start completely over and you could build from the beginning, is there anything that you would do differently coming from the state perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sterling. I think something that we would do differently is we would be more strategic in regards to who participates in the program for phase 1 and phase 2. I think, as my colleague Melissa stated, the lack of direct oversight and collaboration with participants and other Department of Education offices and LA personnel provided a little bit of setback for us as we move through the series. So just kind of being able to strategize on who would be best to go through this program, who would be the individuals that we would be able to discuss, meet with, hold accountable, and try to move this work forward is something I think we would work on. And then just one more thing, I think something we would also do differently is we would create an action plan with continuous improvement cycles to kind of mitigate those challenges in implementing this work. We ask our LEAs during this project to create one when making commitments to increasing education diversity. So we feel SEAs can also do the same to help better LEAs in their efforts to help diversify their teacher workforce.
Thank you, Eli. Thank you to our full panel for your thoughts and for, again, being honest and transparent about the lessons learned. We thank you for offering us some of that information. We are also going to take a few moments to address some of the questions that have been coming up for us in the chat. And so I'll pass it to Yvonne to start helping us sort through some conversation that we can offer back to our audience.
We have a question in the chat. Can you please tell us what are some of the strategies used in this coaching process that were useful and those that were not? And Jackie, Dr. Jackie, I'm gonna throw that question to you. Strategies used in the coaching process.
Yeah.
That were useful and those that were not.
So first, I actually just want to shout out the coaching team. So Yvonne, Sterling. I think that some of the strategies, or one of the strategies from my vantage point, participating in the coaching series that were particularly effective was just the nature of the training materials that we used, right? Being really engaging, being really dynamic. So there were, for example, or there was a fictionalized case study that we were able to engage participants in, that they could analyze and learn lessons from, and relate them to their own particular context. I think one of the other strategies from my vantage point that was really successful was engaging participants in an analysis of their local data, and really encouraging them to go deep in that root cause analysis process in order to identify research-based strategies that were going to make sense and be effective for their local context. One of the things I see folks doing oftentimes is, almost sort of pulling strategies out of thin air, right? And saying, oh, I heard this worked over here, or this is what they say that we should do, so let's just try it. Well, it might not make sense for your local context or for your particular district. So really being able to engage folks in that root cause analysis process and look at their specific context and their specific data, I think was a particularly effective strategy. And then I'll say one, in terms of one that maybe wasn't effective or was less effective, we did see some districts that adopted the approach of sending like one representative from their team to attend these sessions. And ultimately, I think for those districts, that strategy of just sending one representative proved less successful because then they weren't able to take advantage of a team approach and really have those deep conversations with the members of their hiring and selection team. And I think that that's also a strategy that in cases where there was turnover, right, from year to year, made it very difficult for folks to continue the work if that one individual, for whatever reason, ended up leaving their district. So we did see that districts who attended with a team ultimately were more successful in getting the content and being able to implement the strategies that they needed.
Sometimes it's about the fundamentals, right? Teamwork makes the dream work. And so thinking about how we develop a team and a cohort of folks who can help share the collective lift on this, one, makes the burden easier for everyone, but also ensures that the team is able to continue making progress, even when the realities of our schedules and just the other needs on our workloads take the priority. Dr. Jackie, while I've got you here, I'd love to continue speaking with you just a little bit. Could you talk to us a little bit about what kind of familiarity that the LEAs already perhaps may have had with data analysis? Did they walk in already competent in this space, or was there some work that needed to be done from our team to kind of build up their supports?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that the kind of level of familiarity and background that folks came to the coaching series with really varied. So there were some folks that were coming to it completely green. There were other folks that had a lot more experience in doing data collection and analysis at the district level. Because we knew that we were going to be having folks come in at different levels of experience, we planned for that, right, in our coaching. And so we're able then to differentiate and draw on the coaching materials that we had developed previously and been able to use in other states and in other contexts to be able to walk folks through that data analysis process. And NJDOE collects and makes available to districts some really useful data that participants were able to use as a part of that process. And ultimately, I think that that was something that they found a lot of value in, right? And will be a skill that they were able to hone as a result of participating in the coaching series, and something that they'll be able to continue to use like long after participating in the coaching series.
Thank you, Dr. Jackie. I think this might be our last question. We'll get through this one and try to get through another one. We have a question in the chat that I'm going to give to Eli, I think, and any one of the panelists can feel free to add on or jump in. But Eli, the question is, if participants weren't present physically or virtually during the sessions, was there an opportunity to complete self-paced assignments or alternative meeting times arranged? Were they being paid a stipend or given flex time to incentivize completing the sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. If participants were not able to be part of the sessions, we did follow up with participants after each session, whether they were there or not, with a review of what happened during that session. And we included some language in that email that stated something like, if you weren't able to attend, please let us know. And some did reach out to us, and we were able to meet with them independently on what they've missed. So we were able to catch them up, so to speak. In addition, we would send out emails prior to our meeting dates and times, and we would use some language that says, if you know you aren't able to attend or will not be present, please reach out to us and let us know in advance. And often they did, and we were able to kind of schedule some time with those individuals as well. So there were some opportunities for catching up, but also some opportunities to connect directly with myself and or members of the REL team. And we were not aware of any participants given a stipend or offered flex time to incentivize doing this work. And this kind of goes back to some of the conversations we just had about not being able to require, but mostly encourage participants to continue. So we were not aware of that. And I invite anyone else on the panelists to see if they are aware of any of incentives, or if there are any opportunities for catching up.
I think in addition to what you shared, Eli, one of the things that we were able to do was build some of that in to each coaching series. So allow for a little bit of time as folks needed to, meet with other members of their team to get caught up. Because again, we know that that can be really challenging to find that time to do during everyone's busy workday.
Thank you all for that, and thank you all participants for posing such thoughtful questions. We're going to have to start wrapping up, so I'm going to turn it over to Sterling to close us out.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you again to our incredible panel. Again, Melissa Patacchio and Eli Trinado from the New Jersey Department of Education, as well as our very own Dr. Jackie Peng from the REL. Again, your insight and your transparency. It's just a huge asset to have leaders who are willing to share what hasn't been figured out with just as much clarity as we talk about what's going well. And we hope that those of you in the audience here have gained some helpful insights that you can take back to your states. As we continue to wrap up, just a couple of notes. We are fielding the questions that we weren't able to get to out loud. We will be doing our best to provide responses with the last few minutes we have here, but responses will also be posted with the REL playback. So please check back to the REL website in about a week or so, and all of the information from today's webinar should be posted around then. I just want to name very quickly a couple of big gems that we heard here. The fundamentals, teamwork makes the dream work. And so building out a strategic and well-rounded team of folks at the SEA level to help coordinate and champion this work, and then to build that deep partnership with leaders at the LEA level to ensure alignment and that you can be responsive to needs that are coming up in specific contexts is really a critical piece of this work. You heard Melissa name one really important part of this that we always like to shout from the rooftops. The best recruitment game is a great retention game. And so we want to make sure that the conversation that we have today about hiring and selection is aligned to a conversation that we have about ensuring that conditions in our schools right now are reflective of what sustains not only our educators, but students as well. And so thinking about what it looks like to develop culturally responsive and sustaining environments, the ways that we approach leadership and addressing our own biases and the pieces that we've all been conditioned with to ensure that our practices are actually meeting the diverse ends that we know our students deserve. We thank you so much again for your attention and time today. It's been a real pleasure to learn from our leaders at the New Jersey Department of Education and to hear about the partnership work that we've been doing at the REL to help increase educator diversity through the state leadership that we have at our disposal. As we continue with the wrap up of our session, just a couple of quick notes that we want to remind everyone about. We'll have a survey that will come up at the close of the session. And so we do appreciate you for giving us your feedback about the session. If you are interested in staying connected with us, we encourage you to reach out to us via any of the links that you see on the screen. You can reach out whether you are here in the Mid-Atlantic or around the country. As Yvonne reminded us, you have a REL. So we are here to offer you support and partnership as you continue this work. We are excited to build with you and to create a practice that is long-term and sustainable for students and a diverse educator workforce. I just want to double check that we have nothing else on our agenda. And if that is all, we will walk through just a couple of quick disclaimers on the screen. We thank you again for your time. Thank you for offering us your space to the panelists who joined us today. We're looking forward to seeing you again. Take care.